Okay, so before I start this video, I must say I do not have the answers. I am not the great know-all or the great Oz. I am not omnipresent nor am I omnipotent. I am merely an individual who asks questions. I just would like to bring a little light to some of the information that is available but just not widely known. This is just what I would consider an alternative view to the mainstream history narrative, right? So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the Smithsonian. Well, apparently, at the heart of a generous amount of widely accepted history in America lies within the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. Okay, so what is the Smithsonian? Well, according to the Smithsonian, at the Smithsonian website, the Smithsonian Institution is the world's largest museum, education, and research complex with 21 museums and the National Zoo, shaping the future by preserving heritage, discovering new knowledge, and sharing resources with the world. Interesting. Well, the Smithsonian, according to Wikipedia, the Smithsonian Institute is a group of museums and educational research centers, the largest such complex in the world, created by the United States government for the increase and diffusion of knowledge. Even more interesting. Wikipedia then goes on to say, it operates as a trust instrumentally and is not formally a part of any of the three branches of the federal government. Even more interesting. So I'm just going to set that in my back pocket. So according to these two sources, this is the Smithsonian. Out of the Smithsonian's own mouth, it's a museum and a research center. According to Wikipedia, it's a museum, but it is also a trust. That is very important to note, not a part of the three branches of the federal government. Definitely safe to say we are already off to a pretty interesting start. Okay, well, who's the founder of the Smithsonian, right? Who created it? Well, according to the narrative on the Smithsonian's official website, the founder is James Smithson. Okay, who's that? Well, again, according to the Smithsonian's website, they say he was a British scientist who left his entire estate to the United States to fund at Washington under the name of the Smithsonian Institution and establishment for the increase and diffusion of knowledge. Okay, a British scientist. He left his entire estate to America? And according to their website, on August 10th, 1846, the United States Senate passed an act organizing the Smithsonian Institution, which was signed into law by President James K. Polk. Alright. Okay, so it's already a lot going on there. We have this guy not from America giving everything he owns to America after he dies. Okay, so when was he born and when did he die? Well, according to Wiki, he was born in 1765 and he died in 1829. Well, that's interesting. So in 1829, he left everything? But the website on the Smithsonian says it wasn't established until 1846. Okay, so it's been 17 years? Okay, interesting. Well, when did he give them this $500,000 that the website is stating he gave them to fund this institute? Did he leave it as a will, or did he hand it to them? That portion isn't entirely covered, but from my understanding in all my years of doing random novice research, it's never trust philanthropy, because it always seems like, for whatever reason, there are always ulterior motives. According to the website, though, 10 years prior, in 1836, Congress accepted his bequest from President Andrew Jackson. Okay, Andrew Jackson. How did they receive the bequest? Again, not covered. Okay, cool. Bequest received, right? But apparently, they literally debated for 10 years until the Smithsonian Institute was established. Okay. Well, since they have so much to offer on the website, my question now then is, well, what was this debate that took 10 years? Like, literally, a guy just gave you some money and said, hey, make a museum and make it public to the world with everything that you find. But for 10 years, those instructions had to be argued about? Well, I'm not sure. Whatever they were arguing about, they finally came to an agreement in 1846. And according to the same Smithsonian website, in 1838, his legacy, which amounted to more than, not about, but more than 100,000 gold sovereigns, was then delivered to the U.S. Mint at Philadelphia, then recoined in U.S. currency, and then it's said that once it was recoined, it totaled out to more than $500,000 in what was gifted to create the foundation of the Smithsonian Institute / Museum / Research Center. Okay, again, I'm on the Smithsonian website, and I'm not really sure why they didn't just start off like that. Could have just led with that, but okay, moving on. The site then goes on to say, after James K. Polk signed the act by Congress in 1846, it was to be as a trust to be administered by a board of regents and a secretary of the Smithsonian. Now that's a whole lot going on right there within itself. This was an act of Congress, and to be treated as a trust to be administered by the board of regents and a secretary of the Smithsonian. Okay, what's a board of regents and who gets to be the secretary of the Smithsonian? Man, the politics behind all this would really have to go for its own video. But before I go too deep into this, yes, a board of regents, also known as a board of trustees, governs whatever institutions by making decisions about institutional plans, programs, budgets, policies, risk management, etc. Well, side note, by law, the Chief of Justice is also a member of the Board of Regents of the Smithsonian Institution, and apparently, by custom, is elected as their Chancellor of the Board. And to this day is governed by a Board of Regents consisting of the United States Vice President, the Chief Justice of the United States, 3 senators appointed by the President pro tempore of the Senate, 3 representatives appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and 9 U.S. citizens chosen by the board and approved by joint resolution of Congress. Bro, that is freaking crazy. Now I'm just gonna leave that right there and just go back to where I started, but what? I mean, I guess I could probably understand if all museums were set up this way, but just this one museum? Interesting. So I'm looking all over to go a little bit more into detail about this particular institution, and I can say it was definitely a challenging task. It was not as easy as I thought it would be. I mean, given their loud criminal history and all, but of course not. So before I really get into this Smithsonian institution, I would like to take some time and explain what diffusionism and what isolationism is, primarily because these two thought processes and ideals alone are pretty much the foundation and the basis, or even the principles under which the Smithsonian currently operates today. So, what is diffusionism? Well, diffusionism is a school of thought proposed that civilization spread from one culture to another because humans are basically conservative and lack incentiveness, which of course translates into the idea that cultures traveled to various lands and shared information with each other and spread it out, got different ideas with and from each other, and this is how a lot of the ancient knowledge of the world has been spread. And on our other side, we have isolationism. I say that's so terrible. Isolationism. And that idea pretty much poses the thoughts that there were basically very minimum interaction, if any, between different cultures over long distances. Different tribes of ancient people and civilizations were prevented due to geographic situational differences. So any kind of cultural phenomena is the direct result of independent invention, or what they call parallel evolution, i.e. saying society had pretty much come with one of those do-it-yourself approaches. They weren't influenced by anything but themselves. So okay, here we have these two different ideas. Diffusionism, which basically gives the idea that a lot of the technology of the ancient world was shared amongst each other through various forms of migration or trade, technology, etc. And on the other hand, we have isolationism, which pretty much states that the ancient world peoples were not sophisticated enough to travel and share knowledge with each other. Thus, every civilization sprang up on its own without the influence of any other culture. Alright? We got that? So now that's in our checkbook, back to the Smithsonian, right? Okay, so according to my personal findings, all my roads mostly go back to James Smithson. So in my journey, what I was able to find or uncover pretty much for the most part was he pretty much was an English guy, was not from America, gave away $500,000 to United States, and apparently he had never been to America. He's never been here ever, but for some reason just wanted to give America everything he ever owned in the name of sharing information. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, but why though? Oh yeah, according to the narrative, for the advancement and diffusion of knowledge. Okay, well, what's diffusion of knowledge, and why did some random English guy give the United States government $500,000? He's never even been here. You don't even go here. Okay, back to diffusion of knowledge. According to the Collins Dictionary, it states diffusion of knowledge is something such as knowledge or information is diffused, or if it diffuses somewhere, it's made known or a wide area or to a lot of people. Okay, so basically diffusion of information is to whenever you access information, I guess, make it available to a lot of people. Okay, cool. So then we can say James Smithson gave $500,000 to the American government to make knowledge and information known. Diffusion of knowledge. Okay, that's the narrative. Okay, well then my next question is, where do these isolationists come in at, huh? And how does this come up? Because the entire goal, according to the narrative, was to make the information known. Alright, I'm not going to continuously reinsert that idea, but what? But this is what we're told, and we're just supposed to accept this without any questioning. So hopefully we can establish that the Smithsonian, although a museum, the world's largest museum, is equally a trust. And this will wrap up part 1 of the Smithsonian How to Hide History and Get Away with It series. I just really hope I was able to provide some valuable information concerning the Smithsonian. And like as usual, if you liked this video, share it and subscribe. And namaste.